The world we live in is a place of contrasts. On the one hand, there is freedom and acceptance. On the other hand, there is frustration, intolerance, and closed-mindedness. If you are listening to this video series, I know which kind of world you want. It's the same kind of world I want. However, we cannot snap our fingers and expect this world to appear. Moreover, if we point fingers at others, it will only cause a backlash. Consequently, all we can do is to try to develop an attitude of acceptance. And this begins with ourselves. Said in another way, demanding change in others is unlikely to be fruitful. Rather, by stepping back and attempting to understand ourselves, we can develop a more accurate perspective, one in which we no longer see the world as being about us versus others. Instead, we recognize that we are all part of an ongoing process, and that the healing of the world begins with ourselves. For this reason, I began this book by focusing on the individual. All of the ideas in part 1 about listening to the inner voice, dealing with obstacles, our teachers, acceptance, appreciation, and non-judgment, patience, neutrality, giving up the idea of being perfect or trying to conform to stereotypes, living in the now, integrating the yin and yang of our personalities, and taking steps towards realization of ourselves by imagining, believing, and taking action. All of this was related to coming to terms with who we are as individuals. This self-knowledge is an essential first step in creating positive change in the world. Part 2 was an extension of this, a second building block, if you will. For in order to create positive change, we also need to heal our interpersonal relationships. We began part 2 by noting that healthy relationships require honesty and openness, two components required for trust. We then considered the importance of being mindful and aware of others' needs while developing skills to negotiate with kindness and compassion. This led to a discussion of the importance of hearing other people, the dichotomy of people who simmer or boil, and the value of grounding ourselves by understanding our past histories. We also considered problems in relationships such as cat and mouse games and conflicts that arise when people refuse to listen to each other. Clearly, there is a need to take responsibility for our actions. Our choices make a difference, as they can lead to smiles or frowns. The final section of part 2 focused on coming to a more joyful place in our lives in which we are being flexible and not trying to force things, while respecting our process and the processes of others. We also discussed the concepts of getting lighter, removing the weights that burden us, waking up to ourselves, and allowing gratitude to enter our lives. All of these can help pave the way for meaningful, intimate relationships. My hope is that the ideas expressed, while not comprehensive, can provide a springboard for growth and personal transformation. As mentioned, attaining balance involves finding a comfortable equilibrium between looking inward to ourselves and looking outward to others. At times we may feel that we are making no progress in this, but in reality, something is always happening as we are constantly growing, learning, and adapting.